Welcome back to Risk Check Podcast, episode 30.
Woo!
Dirty 30.
Facts.
We're getting filthy with this one. No, I'm just kidding.
Rated R Risk
But
Check.
we've got a special episode in store for you all. But first, let's get to some introductions. My name is Perry.
I'm Ben.
And we are 2/3 of the Risk Check Podcast. There's someone missing today you might notice if you're watching and not listening. Rashawn is currently on vacation.
Yeah.
You could say.
Somewhere.
He's on a working vacation. Somewhere. We'll share a picture of him. So this is the moment when we present Rashawn. Here he is. You see him in all his glory.
He's relaxing somewhere.
Probably smoking a cigar.
Definitely smoking a cigar.
And we wish him the best. So in his place tonight, we have a really good friend of the pod, Ricardo Sime, contributing writer for Time and Tide. Thank you for joining us tonight, sir.
It's great to be back, man. It's
great to have you here.
Comfortable.
There you go. That should feel familiar. I think you sat in the same seat when we did your episode.
Yes,
Sure.
I'm like special.
There we go.
Yeah, exactly.
There we go.
There we go.
And tonight we have a special guest we'll be interviewing, Jamaal Parham.
What's up, y'all? How's it going?
Did I pronounce your last name correctly?
It's Parham.
Parham. Got you. Thank you for that.
No problem.
But before we get into tonight's festivities, we've got to have our honorary wrist check. I'll kick it off tonight, and then we'll go down the line. I'm wearing the watch. I wore this on the second episode. I wore this on the second episode. I might have worn it again on another episode. I'm not sure if I remember.
I think you wore the LG on the first episode.
No, the first episode I wore my G-Shock. Definitely. But I wore this on the second episode. This might have been my first vintage watch purchase. This is my vintage Omega Seamaster. Big Omega fan. I saw it for a really good price, and decided to pick it up. This one I have. So it's a gold-filled case.
10 karat, right?
Yes. So it does have real gold on it. I wanted a gold watch, but at the time couldn't. I didn't see fit to spend the kind of money gold
For a solid
watch
gold.
would
Big gold.
would cost.
Yeah.
So I settled for this, but I'm very, very pleased with it. And I have it on what was originally a very pale croc strap that's patinaed a little bit, and now it's very caramel, which I'm enjoying. But yeah, this is a tried and true favorite of mine. Ricardo, what do you got for us?
I woke up and decided to take a mission to Jupiter.
There we go.
Wow.
I've told myself that I will be wearing these as often as possible. These will not just sit at home. So recently, if you check my Instagram, you'll see I have a couple shots of wearing this watch.
Yeah.
But to accomplish that, I had to get it off what I think most of us would agree is not necessarily the best strap. And I have it on this rubber strap from a company called Perpetual Straps. It's brown in color, works with the kind of the sandy case and the orange highlights. I've hollered at the guy who runs the company, and I asked him for a certain color that I'd love him to make to match the strap. If that happens, I'd love to show you guys because I have some crazy stuff in my head about something to match with this.
Has to make a strap to match that hand.
Yeah.
That second hand.
Actually, all I'm going to say is Heath Ledger.
Okay. We'll leave it there.
And then you'll see where I'm going with my thought process.
I've seen people online swapping out the straps for a bunch of moon swatches. This is one of the better ones I've seen. This one's really good. When we were at the Oris event, you had the Mission to the Moon, and you had the same strap, and it was black, right?
It was black, yeah.
Yeah, that one was really good too. Yeah. So he's doing some really great rubber straps.
Yeah.
I think the Speedmaster in general is like low key a great watch on a rubber strap.
It's a strap monster.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yes, and to Ben's point, what he said, it is a strap monster. You can actually throw it on almost anything,
Yeah, whatever you want
Yeah.
to work.
and it's going to look good. Quite the contrary to like Rolex.
Facts.
Yeah, but it does well. I think it's something about like the kind of twisted lugs.
But yeah, I guess I know this is a rub people the wrong way, but I continue the Omega story here. Let's see where
We need to preface this by saying
Oh
we
man,
never
is this an
talk
Omega
about
commercial. Y'all got the
facts.
episode.
Number
A
one.
word from our sponsor.
Number one. Omega, we need a check. That's
Yeah,
number one.
well, we know someone now, but we'll take that to another party.
Number two, we don't discuss what we're gonna wear on days that we're filming. So this was all coincidental.
I actually didn't realize we were all doing this.
I realized it once you said what your wrist track was. I was like, okay, Ricardo's wearing his Moonswatch. Cool, whatever. And then I'm like, oh shit, Perry guys. Wow. I don't know what's happening. So I am obviously also wearing a Moonswatch. I'm wearing Mission to Mars. It's my favorite of the bunch. It's the one I wanted the most. I do still have it on the less desirable strap. Erica's Originals, if you're listening, I ordered 3 straps like 3 months ago. I'm still waiting. I don't know what's going on.
Where we going?
Just saying. But Mission to Mars is my favorite of the bunch, like I said. I think it's the best colorway. The white and the red, red's one of my favorite colors. I had to have it. The second I saw it, I was like, this is hands down the best one. If I can only get one, this is the one I want. I got it. I'm happy with it.
Yep.
I want more, but we'll see what happens there.
So what's funny is the 2 that you're wearing are the 2
You
that
also
I own.
Shout out to Perry's wife.
Shout out to my wife. She's gonna love that. She's got one of those.
If it wasn't for her, we would not have these at all.
Facts. Very true.
facts. If it wasn't for truly, you would not have these.
Yeah, because I gave you the inside intel.
Yep.
Facts.
Yes. So
Yes.
thank you, Perry's wife.
Yes.
Yep.
She's gonna love that. Jamal, what are you rocking today?
I'm doing an Omega.
Here we go.
Cut the check.
I'm wearing a vintage Omega Seamaster F300 Electric,
It's great.
which is just like a weird little dive watch. It was something that Omega licensed the Accutron movement from Bulova. So it's got this really nice sweeping hand on it. It's got an integrated bracelet. I'm a sucker for an integrated bracelet.
That bracelet looks like an oyster bracelet.
Yeah, a little bit, right?
Also, peep how it connects to the case.
I know. I saw that.
Just like a Vacheron Overseas.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
So it's like, it's got real 70s vibes. I
Yeah.
love 70s vibes in a watch. Like it's it's just like it's been my kind of go-to summer one. So,
Respect.
yeah.
Also,
All right, so-
pie pan dial. I just
Yes.
noticed that.
Yeah.
Yes.
That the
Love a
light
pipe
just
in.
hit off it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good one, man.
Thanks, man.
So, Jamal, filmmaker, writer,
Yeah.
welcome to the pod.
Thanks. It's good to be here.
We've been talking for some time, and I'm glad we were finally able to make this happen.
Yeah.
You've been a very busy man.
It's been booked and blessed, right?
Booked and blessed. So for those that don't know,
I'm gonna start stealing
this gentleman also happens to be co-director on a very popular HBO show right now that I'm a big fan of, and that's Pause with Sam J,
Yeah.
which is an incredible. So she is hilarious.
She's great.
I
Sam is a
discovered
fucking
her
genius.
via her. She had I think it was a Netflix show that she did.
3 a.m.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Me
yeah.
and my wife watched that and nonstop laughs. And then kind of going back and looking into who she was, found Pause on HBO.
Yeah.
And I really, really enjoy it.
It's a great show to make. I'm
Yeah.
glad that people are responding to it. It's like, yeah. It's
There's
a lot of fun.
there's part of it that's very sort of like spur of the moment and like improv
Yeah.
that I enjoy.
Yeah.
And then you guys insert some sort of like scripted what's the
Like
word?
the sketch, the
The
activation
sketch,
stuff.
yeah. So the sketch,
yeah.
there's some sketch comedy that's part of
Yeah.
it too. That's
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
good. But it's kind of all from her perspective. And if you've
Yeah.
seen her Netflix special, you get it. And it's really,
Yeah.
really good. It's thought provoking. It's hilarious. Hold no bars.
Yeah.
She's like, she goes in.
It-
And lets
Well,
everybody
kind of-
have
it's a party. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's like we actually shoot those like parties. Like
That's awesome.
It happens at night at party time. You know what I mean? Like people are really drinking.
Yeah.
Like and it's just our job is to capture that energy, and it's kind of wild to be there. Sometimes you at the end of it, you're like, oh wow, like you know,
like that actually just
when
happened.
you're shooting, you're probably behind the camera, like trying not to laugh.
Oh, it's like trying not to laugh, it's like, and everyone's just them and themselves, you know what I mean? And like Sam is the kind of person that welcomes a conversation. So it's like you also have people who's like, I don't necessarily agree with what they're saying, or like, do they realize the cameras are on them right now? You know what I mean?
Right.
But I think her genius is the way that she opens people up to conversation and how she listens. And it's like I said, it's a ton of fun to make. And you know, we're glad people enjoy it. Fingers crossed for season 3. You know
season 3.
Yeah.
It's
season 3, for sure. Has to.
So
for sure. So getting into your story.
Yeah.
I know you're an LA native.
Yeah. Born and raised.
But who is Jamal?
It's a little bit of LA, a little bit of New York.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I mean, you've been in New York for a long time.
Yeah. So I grew up in Los Angeles, Culver City to be exact.
Okay.
Moved out to New York when I was 18 to go to film school.
Gotcha.
And I've kind of been here ever since. But living that bi-coastal life a little bit. So it's like I like, you know, my personality is a little mix of both of those things. Like
You're stationed here in New York.
Yeah. Home base is Brooklyn.
Awesome.
But yeah. You know,
How do you like BK?
I love it. My
That was the
wife and
right
I
thing to
have
say.
been- No, my wife and I have been living in Brooklyn for like 12 years now, 11 years, something like
wow.
that.
So you're an official New Yorker.
Yeah.
That's how it
And
goes.
I've been here for 22 years total. So.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that makes you official tissue.
Yeah.
That's
so
a
there you
New
go.
York term for those. Official tissue. We won't get into what that means.
We're just gonna leave it at that.
We'll leave it
let
at
it
that.
You don't have to Urban Dictionary. that.
But as a kid growing up in LA, were you into watches and film?
Yeah, I mean, it was for me. Watches was definitely first. I mean, it's like,
oh, really?
Yeah, I think
Oh,
so.
wow.
It's like having a group of friends who are somehow like a little too fashion conscious for the age they were. You know what I mean? But
Sure.
it's like this was like the 90s. It was like cross colors. It was like
Right.
Nye. It was like all of that type of shit, and like how you that was the entry point, right? So it was like fashion and keeping up with your friends. You know what I
Right.
mean? So it started with smaller stuff, like the Jurassic Park watch. You know, that's was like really, I would say my first grail is what I call it.
This
That's
thing's
awesome.
crazy. This is absolutely nutty.
It's dope.
And it's just a dope thing to wear as a kid, you know what I mean? And I think movies came a little bit after that. Like seeing the movie, because I wanted to watch before I saw the movie.
Sure.
Seeing the movie was like, oh no, now I want to make those things.
Oh, wow.
You know what I mean? And that was kind of how it started, and it's been rolling ever since.
So what's the story with this piece? Because I think it's interesting. Like now you are an actual filmmaker.
Yeah.
Here's a watch that was, I mean, I remember when this movie came out.
Yeah.
This was like the thing to see. I mean, like for a kid growing up in the 90s, this was, Jurassic Park was our Star Wars.
Exactly.
In a lot of ways.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So what was the story with this? I know you wanted it as a kid. Were you successful in getting one?
I was not successful in getting one.
Okay.
So it was a thing that I very much was like, yo, I need that. I want that. My mom was like, no way.
Yeah.
Do you know how much it retailed for back then?
I don't. I'm sure it wasn't a ton of money, but it was just like not a thing. That,
It's like you don't need
you know
that.
what I mean?
We're
You
not
need
getting
that.
that. Yeah.
Like, you're fine. What do you need teletyme for? You have a job?
we wake you up to go to school.
Wake you up, you go to
the
school,
bell
we
rings,
pick
you know
up.
when to leave
Yeah,
school.
exactly.
That's it.
And I never got it. You know what I mean? And my watch collecting journey continued after that. And I think I've always kind of been chasing that feeling of like, I need it. I want it.
Yeah.
Let me have it. You
I
know
know
what I mean?
what that's like.
We just had a conversation today about that.
We did. Yeah.
But yeah, once, I mean, a couple years ago, I saw it on eBay and I was like, oh no, I can now I have a job. Like, take that, mom.
Oh my god.
So I scooped
I'm
it up
gonna give
for
you
like,
this watch.
it was like
I
$7.
resonate. I resonate with that though. I know how that feels.
Still new in the box. I got the boxing papers for it. So
Wow.
you know what I mean?
What year is it? I mean, is it dated?
1992. It
It's
says on the
90,
back.
yeah.
Oh wow,
1993,
that's
yeah.
like my jellyfish. My jellyfish. The
1992.
paperwork on this
thing's
says
in mint
94.
condition too, by
yeah,
the way.
yeah.
Yeah.
This thing looks brand new.
No, I'm telling you, it was like new in the box.
Wow.
Like
Somebody just held it for that long.
Yeah.
I was waiting for you. That's all it was.
Exactly.
You know what's funny too is hearing this story. It makes me think about how much earlier I actually was interested in watches.
Yeah.
Right, because when you think about like, if you were a McDonald's kid, I was a McDonald's kid.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Happy
Oh,
Meals.
yeah.
Happy Meals.
You know, there were a couple Happy Meals that had a watch in it, and I think about like
The
all
Burger King Rugrats watches.
I used to have those.
Yeah.
that. I think like I had a Power Rangers
Reptar
watch.
watch.
Yeah,
You know,
the
it was
Reptar
like
watch, yeah.
as a kid when you might not be into branding, but you have these, you have these pop cultural references. These movies, these shows, and it's like that's your childhood.
Yeah.
Anytime you can get your hands on some merch, and oftentimes they would come out with watches, you were like, yeah, I want the Power
want
Rangers
that,
watch.
yeah.
Exactly.
I want the Jurassic Park watch. And so it's got me thinking, it's like, wow, I was perhaps into timepieces.
You
a little
were-
earlier
gotcha.
than I
You were
thought.
you were interested in the object before you
Yeah.
even knew what it was.
I mean, for
100%.
me too, it unlocked an early like collector addiction. You know what I
Okay.
mean? Like, because I'm just kind of a collector in general. It's like comic books,
Yeah.
Oh, you
same.
collect
watches.
comics.
I do.
Tight.
Cameras, sneakers.
Okay.
Like clothes. It's like kind of, and you can go down the list, records.
Mm-hmm.
But it was this idea of like, oh, I want this one, I want that one, I want this one, and being able to display your collection as
Right.
well was a big thing for me as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Like having everything kind of neatly arranged and placed.
Oh,
and,
same.
like in the room.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
It's
yeah.
like, and I think that like that watch was like that started it. It
Sure.
started that chase.
You know what's crazy? Like the level of detail on this
It's wild,
is
right?
wild.
They
Like,
would never make anything like that.
like yeah, today the stuff that's in these McDonald's like Happy Meals, like you feel like you put them on your wrist and they just
It's gonna break.
disintegrate
Yeah.
at the moment. Like this still.
Also,
clicks.
I love that the inside of it says spitter.
Yep.
Yeah.
For whatever reason,
Yeah,
I'm
it's
like,
good.
that's kind of hard.
Well, if you've seen the movie, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
But the
it's cool.
colors on the Raptor are amazing.
They're very vibrant.
And to Ricardo's point, you don't see that on
Yeah.
a lot of the stuff that
Yeah,
you
yeah.
see coming out today.
I wonder who made the movement that goes inside this.
Yeah, I don't know.
We gotta look that up.
I think it's crazy to
My
open.
my money's on Seiko.
Seiko probably.
Probably.
Seiko or your, let's say maybe even G-Shock, Casio.
But even the strap is dope. Do you wear that?
Barely.
Yeah.
It like barely fits on
You
my wrist.
you wore it for you wore it for the last wrist check.
Yeah, I
Wednesday,
did. I
though.
did last first check Wednesday.
Yeah,
I put
you
it
did.
on,
Yeah,
and
When
yeah,
you
yeah.
posted it,
popping off.
so like when
About to pop off.
when you posted it before we actually reshared it,
Yeah.
I sent it in the group chat and I was like, "What the fuck is this?" I was like, "This shit is hot." I was like, "This is nuts."
Yeah,
It's
so
dope.
I could wear it for about 3-4 minutes, and it's like I gotta put something.
It's dope, but it's
Yeah,
it's
your
like,
wrist turns purple.
It's a piece of ephemera
Yeah, for sure.
You know,
for
it's
sure.
like an art piece.
Yeah, it's a piece of my story.
Yeah,
Big
Yeah,
time.
100%.
Yeah.
At what point in your childhood did you realize that like you were interested in film, or was that latter?
It was
that
later. Like I think again, like Jurassic Park kind of unlocked something.
Mm.
You know what I mean? It's like, oh, I wanted to know how they did it. It
Right.
wasn't just about enjoying the story as much as I was like, yo, how did they make dinosaurs come back alive?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? And I started kind of diving into that. Was also like burgeoning Star Wars kid and Star Trek kid at that point. So it's like was always trying to track down, going to the library, like the photo books and the behind the scenes shit, and like
Right.
looking at like I had this book of like Lucasfilm like models and matte paintings and things, and was like, yo, this is crazy. Like this is somebody's job to do this.
Yeah, yeah.
But it was never like at that point. I think I was still thinking like, oh, I'll be like an archaeologist. Again, dinosaurs, right?
It's like dinosaurs. Got it.
Kept coming back to that.
Yeah.
And then that kind of evolved. I was always kind of an artsy kid too. Like I drew a lot, painted, and by the time I got to high school, I was like, okay, I'm gonna be an architect.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And then I took architecture 1 my freshman year and failed it. It's the
Okay.
only F I've ever gotten in my
It's a
entire
very quick lesson
Yeah,
to
yeah, very quick lesson.
not pursuing this occupation.
And I had to take another elective. The only other thing that was open was film 2. And
Okay.
I like begged the teacher. I was like, please, I have to take another elective. I don't want to have to go to like summer school or, have an extra period, whatever. He let me in first class. I was like, no, this is it.
Wow.
Like I was like 13, 14 at the time.
Wow.
And I was like, this is what I'm gonna do for the rest of my life. And I have never looked back.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So
Do you think that had more to do on the teacher that was there, or more so just your experience
yeah,
with film?
I think it was both. I think the teacher, shout out to Jim Knight.
Shout out Jim Knight.
Was a guy who was just really encouraging, and like there was never any limit to the imagination. It's something that is helpful when you're making films, right?
Sure.
But it was just something I got instantaneously.
Yeah.
You know, like I could kind of see the world in shots, and I could figure out stories and structure and things like that. It's just I took to it.
Yeah, you
very
understood it
easily. I
immediately.
understood it, yeah. And it just made me happy. You know
That's
what I mean?
awesome.
It's like I'm never happier than when I'm on set.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or in the edit bay, or just like coming up with shit. It's like that's it. It's like perfect.
That's incredible, man.
Yeah.
Obviously, you know, considering your profession and your hobby, you're a collector.
Yeah.
You like film. I'm curious if watch collecting has in any way somehow influenced your process or your method in terms of like.
I mean, for sure,
when
it
you're
makes
on
sure
set, what you're doing.
Yeah, it's it makes sure that I keep working.
Sure. What time is it?
But I think it's different. Like I'm always thinking of film in terms of units of time, and it's like I think one of the few art forms that really relies on the audience's understanding of how the director is bending time or stretching time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So a lot of times when I'm ideating, I'll use a chronograph to do that. Like I'm usually wearing my Speedmaster, or I have a Zodiac Grand Rally that I'll wear sometimes. Things that I can like literally close my eyes and hit the pushers and like
It's tactile.
try to figure out the units of time that it would take to communicate a story.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I do a lot of commercials. So you have to tell that story within 30 seconds or 15 seconds. And it's really helpful with like just getting like you said, a tactile way to express time. On set, I'm always wearing a diver.
Okay.
I usually wearing this Pelagos, which is just very helpful in being able to visualize how much time you have to work.
Right.
You know
So
what I mean?
also with that being said, it's not just any Pelagos. It's an LHD.
It's the LHD.
So it's a lefty.
Yeah.
With that being said, bezel ASMR.
Yeah.
It's good.
Fire bezel.
Very
So
clicky.
Yeah.
And I like that it's got that slightly different click. At the
It's a
12.
60 click. Yeah. The click is audible. Is audibly different at 12 o'clock.
Yeah.
With that being said, titanium case and bezel means ceramic ball bearing. That's the secret to the sound.
Yeah.
Anything else would chemically
know that.
bond and your bezel would seize, wouldn't move.
It's funny too because like obviously like, we all collect watches, and if you collect watches you end up getting pieces that, you know, especially if you're collecting tool watches, very specific and intended purposes, right? And I have a couple of dive watches. I'm not a diver.
Yeah.
I have a couple of chronographs. I'm not a racer, not a car driver.
Yeah.
But you look for opportunities to
for
like
sure.
kind of get you in the mood, because it is like, you know, when you have a timepiece that you care about, there's a little bit of romance involved.
Yeah.
let's
Oh,
be
yeah.
honest, right?
I mean, my wife and I, we went to Mexico for Christmas last winter, and literally I was like, which one's going in the ocean today?
yeah.
You know?
Well, I know for a fact when Perry wears the Speedmaster, he times how long it takes him to get from the train to his job.
Sure.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Definitely. I time everything. If my daughter is like, if I'm going to park my daughter, I usually wear a Speedy.
Yeah.
And then I'll time like she'll get on the scooter and I'm like, how fast can you go? And I'll time it. And she's like, how fast was I? Like, you know, it's
I
fun.
mean, I put the moon swatch on this morning, and I timed. So my train was like 9 minutes to get to the station. I was timing. I was like, is this shit actually 9 minutes? Because it's the MTA. It's not 9 minutes.
And for those that are listening that are not in New York City, we use public transportation.
It's actually the most efficient way to move around the
And
city.
out here it is.
Also,
Very much so.
You wanna get some more
sometimes the
time.
worst way.
Yeah.
Can be.
I will say this, like, we're so used to hearing the stories about Like, just look at most like watch advertisements. It's like the guy climbing the mountain, the diver, the stuff. It's cool to hear someone in such a different field than what's always shown to us actually making use and using it as a tool in just a different way.
100%.
Yeah. Because like you say, realistically, none of us are, or most of us are not diving off cliffs or going 100 meters. We
don't have wetsuits on.
But it's so cool to hear that you're using it in that aspect and just keeping track of what's going on. That's.
I mean, I think too, for me, it's so much of what we do in like modern filmmaking is all very digital. You know what I mean? And having just kind of a physical sense of tactileness, like I'm very much an old man in that way. Like I like the analog. I
was about to ask you that too. I get a sense from you that you prefer analog.
Yeah, I mean,
like categorically.
It on a personal level, I do.
Because you shoot on film too.
Well, we shoot on a combination of film and digital. I would prefer to shoot on film, I think. But it's always about the right tools. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
Just like with watches, it's like there's certain things that it's like, that might not work or that's not going to look the same way. But I think we've gotten to a point where the kind of default is digital, and I like having the choice.
Gotcha. You like having options.
I like having options.
Did
different paints to paint.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Did you notice when you bought this watch that your serial number ends in 69?
100%. 100%.
Oh my god!
I would say my man that sold me the watch, I asked him to read off the serial numbers. I think there were 3 in the store, and that was the second one. I was like, no, that's it. I
have a friend who loves the podcast, Lewis. Shout out to Lewis. He was interested in the Grand Seiko. He asked me to help him get one, and I was like, yo, I found one. And he was like, oh, cool, like it's limited edition. Like, what number is it? And I was like, 69.
That's good.
And he was like, gimme. Like, no hesitation.
Yeah.
So how did the Pelagos come into your life? What's the story there?
Yeah, so the Pelagos was an accident almost.
Oh, really?
I wanted a Grand Seiko. I think it was the SBG E257. It's like the ceramic green with the yellow hand.
Yep.
I think Ricardo has one of those in his collection.
I had my eyes on that hard before I fell in love with another.
Oh, you got the steel bezel.
Steel bezel.
You got the steel bezel. That's right.
Yeah.
But I knew that was the watch I wanted. Like I had gone hard. I was like photoshopping it with different straps. So it's like, oh yeah,
because you could do that.
That's a good idea.
Yeah,
that's a good idea.
It's just like definitely making sure this is the watch I want. I walked into the shop. I walked past the case with Tudors in it, and I was like, no, that one. Like it just called to me, and I was like, I gotta have that watch.
Wow.
Didn't even think about it.
How would you explain that feeling when the watch calls to you? How would you explain that?
It's like the siren song to the rocks. You know what I mean? It's like because everything else went away. Like I completely forgot about this watch I was obsessing over for months.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
How would you then compare that to like what's a similar feeling when like you're doing your normal 9 to 5? Is there like what would you tie that to?
It's like it's kind of breaking the story for the first time. You know what I mean? It's like there are times when, especially in commercials, like you get a brief or you get boards or something and you're pitching against a bunch of different directors, right?
Yeah.
And what they're looking for is kind of your take. And you don't always know, you're like, I don't really know what the way into this is. But you're walking down the street, you're having lunch, you're in the shower, and then it'll hit you. And it's like, oh no, it's perfect. And I'm the only one who can make this commercial. You know what I mean? And it's that same feeling, and I think chasing that it is a little bit of an adrenaline rush too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
I guess the wheels
you just
going.
know it's out there and you have to make yourself ready to receive it when it's there. And I think that's what happened with the watch, and most of my watch purchases have happened that way. So
I mean, that's a good way to buy watches. Like it's you're kind of guaranteeing that there's a pretty high chance that thing is going to stay with you for a long time.
Oh, I'll never get rid of that watch.
Yeah.
Like,
And there's a connection
that's one
immediately.
that, like never sells. You know what I mean?
And I think the LHD is going to be over time very important for the brand.
I think so.
I think the Pelagos LHD for sure.
That it's just such a comfortable watch to like. It feels like nothing.
Yeah, and you don't think that because it's such a big watch.
It is a big watch.
But then
gigantic.
you put it on and you're like, it's titanium.
I literally
it works.
was like walking around my apartment the other day. I was like, "Where's my watch?" And I was like, "Oh, it's on my wrist." Like, you know what I mean? It's like
I've done that
I
before.
wear like a couple other Tudors are just watches that are heavier, and you feel it. This one is just like, it's
especially
not-
because of the footprint that it has on your wrist. You expect it to weigh more.
And the way that the strap works, you know,
Yes,
the way that-
yeah.
right.
you know what I mean.
Yep.
So it's like it kind of expands on that little thing, so you never feel it tightening against your wrist.
Yeah.
So
That's very interesting.
yeah.
So going back to the timeline watches, we just talked about the Pelagos, but moving back to Jurassic Park and going forward, I know, just from talking to you, that you're like, when you got serious about watches, your foray into watches was G-Shock.
Big time G-Shock guy.
So talk about that a little bit. What is it about G-Shock that's so appealing? What do you think it is? Because I think for a lot of people, and it's funny, we touched on this. We touched on this on various episodes, and when we had Manny here, I think oftentimes like G-Shock as a brand is so important, and holds so much weight that we forget that it's Casio,
right?
And Casio has done an amazing job at making watches for everybody. They really have.
Yeah.
What is it about the G-Shock that you think just reigns supreme, especially with young people?
I think it's the variety and the accessibility.
Yeah.
Like you can find a G-Shock no matter what the case shape is that fits your personality.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that was one of the early things for me is like, I like things that are a little weird, a little colorful, you know? And I found models that fit that.
Yeah.
But then I could, they're not super expensive, so I could have 2 or 3.
You could have a couple of them.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
And then the second part was the conversation. That was the first time I realized how watches can start conversations.
Okay.
Because people would see them and they'd be like, "Oh, yo, I used to have a Baby G." Like, yo, I used to have, you know what I mean?
So true.
And then it's like, it's such a ubiquitous brand that everyone kind of has a connection to it in some way. And it starts conversations. It starts friendships.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Tell us about the specific one that you have with us. It's a collaboration,
this one,
right?
It's a collab. Yeah, this was done with this New York brand called Pegleg in like 2009.
Okay.
And Pegleg was like a downtown brand for a bit. They like when Union was in New York, they sold it there. I bought this at Union in New York.
Oh wow.
So I bought this one and I bought it. Union also did a collab with G-Shock that year. That was like,
shout out to Beffy and Chris.
Yeah. They did, it was like an American flag. And those were kind of my first big, like, kind of hypey G-Shock purchases. And the two that I, again, like, never sells. Like, they just remind me of a specific time in New York, my, like, specific relationship to fashion and something that, like,
I think being, obviously, 3 of the 4 of us are native New Yorkers, but, you've been here since you were 18.
Yeah.
So we can consider that like your formative years. So you understand and appreciate the culture that we had growing up here. And G-Shock was a big part of that. I feel like for
big time.
most urban kids who were just like into anything, like you said, hypey, G-Shock was a part of that culture.
Yeah.
You had to have one.
Yeah. I remember like Pharrell was wearing like, like
yellow G-Shocks.
You know what I mean? Like,
and the Migos started that trend. Like it was crazy.
It was like that and like camo hoodies was like what I was like rocking.
Yeah, ape shark hoodies.
Yeah.
You had a G-Shock and the shark hoodie.
Yeah.
It's funny, the bust down G-Shocks starting to come back.
They are. Yeah. I remember all the kids I was in high school were spending like $200-$300 on some G-Shocks with Swarovskis in them. Like at Queen Center Mall. Like it's crazy.
You know what's funny? When looking at this, I think about, how people always say if you have a Rolex, you could sell it anywhere in the world and you'll have money. If you're anywhere in the world and you need a watch, 9 times out of 10 you'll find a G-Shock.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. I think 9 times out of 10 you'll find something Casio branded.
Yeah. It's that's why it's so loved. It's like the entry. It's
the gateway drug.
It is very much
it's a gateway
drug.
Because you're incentivized to buy more.
Yeah.
Because you know that they're accessible. There's so many options.
Yeah.
And if you are a person who, comfortable in your own style, you have, maybe you're artsy.
Right.
It's just so much fun that you can have with that brand. But I think big time, like shout out to Casio. It's like it really that Manny, when we sat down with Manny, it really hit me. It was like, man, they really played such an integral role.
Yeah.
In
the
my
fact
youth.
that his mom used to come to the States just to buy Casios and flip them in Puerto Rico,
But
that's
from,
crazy.
Like, the calculator watch, to, like G-Shocks, it's
the
like
TV watch.
Crazy, like so many hits.
I think at my height of G-Shock collecting, I probably had like 30, 35.
Wow.
Wow.
How many watches do you have in total today?
I hope it's more than Rashawn.
I think it's probably around that number total. I probably
30.
have like 35 pieces.
Wow, so you've gotten rid of a lot of the G-Shocks.
I did, yeah.
Copy.
And most of it was space. Some of it, like, I actually flipped a few of them for like
Yeah, I'm sure
a little bit of money.
Oh, did you ever get your hands on the Hender Scheme G-Shock?
No.
I'm dying for one.
What is this one?
Hender Scheme did the G-Shock collab.
Never.
So the case is all white. Well, you know Hender Scheme. They do the So the case is all white, and then they do the vegetable tan sneakers.
Yeah.
So the strap is vegetable tan leather. It's a NATO.
Oh wow. Which G-Shock model?
It's the one that you actually bought me as a gift. The snow camo. It's that same model.
They still sell this?
I mean, now they're selling for like 5x retail, but retail is expensive on it. So it's basically,
I have to see a picture.
at retail they were like $400, which is kind of crazy.
Picture, we'll share it.
Yeah, we'll share it. But 100%, that was the G-Shock that I was like,
I wanted one of
damn.
those for sure.
Yeah, I would cop one instantly if they were ever in stock, but they just weren't.
Wow.
Yeah.
In your profession, and I think much to like anyone, once you're dialed in, you either foster or you find a community.
Mm-hmm.
Have you found one in the film community of watch collectors?
Oh, 100%.
What's that been like?
Honestly, kind of the biggest thing about it is like it gives us a bond of something outside of the filmmaking.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Which, like, everything is a job. You know, and it's like sometimes you just get tired of talking about your job. You want to talk about something else.
Sure.
But I've got some really close friends that I made through filmmaking that also happen to be watch lovers and watch collectors. My colorist, Mikey Rossiter, is like a big watch guy. Cinematographer Michael Townley is another big watch guy. And it's like, it's just dope to be able to kind of turn off and share a hobby. You know what I mean? That's like not something we're necessarily getting paid for, putting food on the table, that kind of thing. It's just for love.
Yeah.
Did you ever, because another thing that we have a habit of doing is converting.
Yeah.
Have you ever like converted someone to the dark side?
I literally sent somebody a Darth Vader the other day.
That's good.
After he sent me a video of like an unboxing of a
Grand Seiko?
Yeah, it's my directing partner.
That's good.
And I was slowly but surely been like, come on, man, you want it. You want it.
I met him the other day. So I have a question. When you're directing things, you have a vision for how things should look and feel to the audience that you want to, convey to. When you're looking at how things should look on screen, do you take watches into that perspective as well? What should someone be wearing on their wrist with this outfit or in this scene or moment?
Yeah, and I try to, as a director, like suggest but let my department heads do the storytelling. You know what I mean? It's one of the things though that I'm always like, no, I'm gonna notice. You know what I mean? It's like, or if it's a character, because costumes tell characters so quickly. It's the quickest way to communicate who a person is.
It expresses personality.
Exactly. And watches are a big part of that, and it just happens to be something that I'm an expert in. So I tend to be a little harder on a costume designer because of that. But it's also something that, as a director, you kind of have to leave the space for collaboration, and actors will come in with certain ideas and thoughts about what they want to do or who they feel the character is, and your designers will do the same thing. Sometimes there's a technical thing, like some watches are just a little too loud to be near the microphones, you know what I mean? Like you hear the ticking, or with this watch, sometimes I have a problem because it hums. You know what I mean? So it's like when it's really quiet, you can hear the hum, and the sound man's like, "What's that humming?" And I'm like, "Sorry, take it off."
So are you ever like, this person should be wearing a dive watch for this scene and let your costume department kind of do what they want with that?
No, I'm not. I try not to be that prescriptive about it.
Do you ever have like actors who are just, I don't know if adamant is the word, but like they have a watch that they really love and they always wear. Because I think of like I don't know if you're familiar, like Tay Diggs, a big Panerai guy.
Right.
I mean,
Really?
You could go
from
back
early, right?
I'm about to watch Best Man and see what he got on.
There are pictures of him like doing the stuff for Stella got her groove back, and he has a Panerai.
Yeah.
Wow.
In like almost every show he has a Panerai. And I just wonder, like, do you ever run into actors who's just like, no, this is what I'm wearing?
Yeah, we do. And the key is to really dig down into, like, is this a character decision or is this a brand partnership decision? You know what I mean?
Because then you need to check.
Yeah.
Just saying.
And
Sneak
for
the speedy
me,
in there.
like,
Facts.
everything that goes in that frame has to be about character. You know what I mean? It's the essential thing. It's like, we're here to put on a show for these people. We can't also be selling stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's again, it's always a conversation. You just get to the bottom of it, communicate, and I will make my preferences known, and you know, we'll see what happens. But yeah,
I had a question. So much to like many of us, you know, you started with quartz, right? Like first it was this thing that resonated with your childhood, and you wanted the Jurassic Park.
yeah,
You get the G-Shock, you're into G-Shocks, you're collecting 30 G-Shocks. Understanding that, you know, you like analog. At what point did you decide that you wanted to step into mechanical watches? And what was sort of the thing that edged you on or pushed you into it, the deciding factor, if you will?
it was just kind of immersing myself in what they were. Like, I'm the kind of person who's like, when I want to know something, I want to know everything there is to know about it. And I get kind of obsessive about it. So it's like diving into the books and the internet, and then figuring out first, like, what's the most accessible way for me to get into that. You know what I mean? And it was vintage stuff.
It was vintage. So you started with vintage.
Started with vintage.
That's very interesting. I did too.
Yeah.
When I got into mechanical watches. It wasn't because, for me, at that time in my life, when I got into vintage, I was collecting a lot of vintage clothing.
Okay. Yeah.
And it just resonated with me for some reason. And we talk about this often. It goes back to, for me, what's important. And I don't know, maybe this resonates with you too because you're a filmmaker, but it went to storytelling.
Exactly.
Like vintage was
exactly
incredibly important for me for the art of story.
Yeah.
I wanted to be able to speak to my timepiece outside of just the movement.
Yeah.
And I also, I'm inspired by my own curiosity and wanting to know things and imagination. And I often imagine like who owned the watch.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. I think for me, it's story and it's character, and it's like, I like things that you can see that it's lived a life. You know what I mean? It's like obsessed with kind of the patina about it. Going back to the costume thing for a second, my biggest pet peeve on set is like a character that's wearing brand new jeans.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. It never makes sense.
That's funny.
You know what I mean?
That's really funny.
And it's like, how do we, like, that, like, did they just come from the store? Like, I don't understand. You know what I mean? And for me, vintage was part of that. It's like, I wanted to know where these things were and what the story was, and that they've lasted this long. You know what I mean? And will probably continue to go on after me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
definitely.
yeah.
I think that's a good segue into the Hamilton.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm familiar with khaki Hamiltons. It's an incredible field watch.
Yeah.
Even the modern khaki Hamiltons, and our producer has one. Ashraf purchased one for himself in a, I think it's a steel case. It's
PVD, so it's
PVD
black.
Okay.
And it's an awesome timepiece.
Gray NATO.
What was it about this watch, and what's the story with this?
This
piece?
one was a cure for writer's block.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, what were you working on?
I was trying to crack a script that is something I've been working on for a really long time. A movie called Something Kind of Wonderful that hopefully one of these days will be out.
It will. You did it.
Yeah. And just really couldn't get my brain around a couple of things. And one of the movies that kind of always inspires me because of the kind of zaniness, but also the smallness of the story is Martin Scorsese's After Hours. And Griffin Dunne's character in the movie is wearing that watch. So as any kind of procrastination starts. I was like, I'm not going to write. I'm going to go on the internet and watch this. You know what I mean? And then like started going down that rabbit hole.
You explore your hobby.
Exactly.
It feels like it's like a safe space for your brain.
But then I was like, yo, I'm going to get this. I'm going to put it on my wrist and I'm going to try to break this story. You know what I mean? And like try to make it work. And I didn't take the watch off until I did. You know what I mean?
Wow.
And this was a script I was working on with my writing partner, Pilar Valdez. And we worked on that script for 2 or 3 years, I think, just like really trying to mold it into what it was. And this was
what year is this?
Piece of that. It's 1980.
Yeah, I was about to say 80s.
It's like it's beat to shit. Like,
I was gonna say that watch is actually looks really special because of that. The hands are skeletonized because there's no loom on them.
Yeah.
There should be tritium plots in the middle, but they're all gone.
Wow.
And then
that's awesome.
And then the second's hand is grayed out.
Grayed out.
Yeah.
And
it should be also tritium. It should look brownish.
And that winding sound is just
it's funny. I'm not an expert or anything, but I was listening to it and I was like, 80s. I spent a lot of time listening to vintage watches actually.
Right.
And then so I do have a little bit of an ear for it. You can kind of hear it. It's kind of funny.
It sounds almost like, I think the best
some
word.
of them you know when you hear it, you can date it. It's kind of interesting.
I think the best word to describe the 80s movement is like crunchy.
Yes.
It's very crunchy.
Yeah. It sounds like a bag of chips.
Even when you wind that, it's got like a crackle to it.
Yeah.
It does.
Right.
It's so nice.
So you wore this until you felt like the script was done.
Yeah, until I felt like we kind of were in a groove.
At what point did you feel like you hit that mark?
When we were comfortable enough to like send it out to the world.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And like that script opened a lot of doors for us. Like that was the thing that we got agents and managers off of.
Yeah.
Like it
So it's something you actually pitched?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So has this kind of become like the writer's block watch now? Like
No, there are a few.
He's got too many watches for that to be the one.
That's a good trick.
That's good.
Yeah. This actually was one too.
Really?
Yeah, recently. I can't talk about this project yet, but it was
Another episode.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
so you talk about the inspiration behind this piece. I had a question kind of regarding that thought too, where like obviously your profession is in film, you love film. Do you notice that you're noticing watches
all the time? I cannot. I cannot. It's bad. Like I caught myself doing it.
You wrist watch.
Like,
do you miss the whole plot sometimes?
I'm like,
scenes. The hell is on this?
I gotta. Well, I did. I have no idea what's going on. I'm trying to look at this watch.
That's good.
Yeah, but it's like I always tell people when you get on the other side of filmmaking, something happens where you can't enjoy movies in the same way because you're kind of seeing the mechanics behind it.
Yeah. Really?
You know what it takes to like do a scene like that. You're like, yo, there must have been 1,000 people there and like this was crazy, that was crazy. It's that same kind of feeling, but it's just like, oh, like what, like is that a sub? Is that like a Speed Master? You know what I mean? It's like trying to just play detective a little bit and then you start researching it. You're like looking for the stills online and then you end up buying them.
Oh man.
We've got another vintage watch on the table. This one's really interesting.
Yeah, this is
it's a Hoyer.
Hoyer.
So this is before the tag acquisition.
Yeah, it says Hoyer only.
Yeah.
And it's technically, well, not technically, it is two-tone.
It's two-tone, integrated bracelet.
Yeah. Steel case and bracelets integrated.
It's also a chronograph.
Chronograph, right.
With a date.
Hoyer, Kentucky.
Gold,
the Hoyer,
crown,
Kentucky.
pushers, Hoyer symbol, and screws on the case.
It's dope.
Yeah,
that Hoyer symbol at 6 is
it's crazy.
Bad.
Pretty cool,
It's
right?
in the case.
Yeah.
This was a piece I picked up. The production company that I'm repped by, Art Class Content, has offices in Kansas City. And I was doing a job out in Kansas City. And I heard this rumor about this shop out there called Cool Vintage Watches that like Obama went to once.
Oh,
and I was
wow.
like, I
That's
should
crazy.
go there, right?
Did he buy anything?
He apparently did not buy anything, but he looked around for a while.
Sure. Sounds like
Obama's like, I got that new money.
Yeah. I don't need to buy old shit.
But I was like, yo, I should go and check it out. And this place is crazy because it's literally just cool vintage watches.
Yeah.
And they're all kind of in these cases and you kind of got to like dig through them a little bit and you'll find some really weird stuff, some like gems, like. But this one just caught my immediately partly because of the gold warrior.
hit,
You know what I mean? I was like, it's just such a weird looking watch, and
It's very 1970s.
yeah,
You know-
it's super 70s.
You know what's
Yeah.
funny about this? After playing with it and looking at the dial more, it says tacky on it instead of tachymeter. Everything just abbreviated.
Yeah. But they made these in celebration of Kentucky Derby. So
Oh,
the
nice.
case is like a little horseshoe shaped, which is why you have the two
Yeah.
screws at the bottom.
What year for the Derby was it for?
I think it's
It's had to be in the
69 or
70s.
70.
Okay, so
yeah,
very
it's like
early.
very early 70s.
Another 69.
Yeah. And they also there's a quartz version of the watch too.
Really?
Yeah. But apparently like there aren't a lot floating around anymore because the way that the bracelet connected wasn't great and they would just fall apart and people toss them.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is.
It's pretty sick.
Yeah. This is nice.
It's definitely unique.
I do see the horseshoe shape too.
Yeah.
The other thing that I love is at the bottom here, just like the Hoyer like shield, just kind of sitting atop there.
Yeah. It's
And-
like feels like a watch that doesn't balance right, but you
Yeah.
put it on your
It
wrist
works.
and it's like it works perfectly.
We talked about this before, and I hate tag.
Yeah, I know.
This says Oyer. I'm a fan.
Yeah.
But it's cool because it doesn't say Hoyer on the dial.
Yeah, it says it on the case.
Dial just says Kentucky.
This reminds
Automatic
me
Swiss.
of those Rolex day dates
A
that
little
say
bit.
Rolex on the bottom because they cover the dials of diamonds.
Right.
But the case is like really, really awesome actually.
Yeah.
So was this another one of those like
Calling you?
Yep. Okay.
Yeah,
Yep. That's
it
why
was,
I'm
yeah.
taking it.
Yeah, on the trip to the store, I picked up two different watches. I got that, and I got an Accutron Devil Diver.
Okay.
Oh wow,
Um,
666.
Yeah. And like you see, I could show you guys photos. It's just like hundreds of watches out there, and it was just like, oh, like okay, that one.
That one.
It's like, oh, that one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like I think in a day and age where we're kind of inundated with like photos of watches and like you see all the stuff on IG, you see it on YouTube, seeing something in the metal and with your eyes,
Yes.
it creates
It's
an
so
emotional
different, yeah.
connection.
It does.
That you just have to have with these little objects,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
I don't like purchasing watches online.
I don't see why anyone would.
The only time that I do is if it's something that I come across that I know I already want.
Yeah.
Right.
And then I'm like, oh, there it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because you've already seen it in person. You know what it's like. It's like, here's my opportunity. Great price, great condition. I have to get it.
Yeah.
That's the only circumstance. You own a lot of watches, my friend.
I do.
How do you decide what to wear on any given day?
It's hard. It's really, really difficult. I mean, I generally start with the watch. You know what I mean? And the problem is I also have a lot of clothes. So it's just
That's never really a problem. Let's be honest.
Just from talking to you and being around you, I think it's fair to say we're similar in a
Yes.
couple of the ways in
Yeah.
terms of what we like.
yes.
Like everything you're wearing, I would wear.
There you go. And
Okay,
vice versa.
you got an affinity for vintage.
Yeah.
You like watches.
Yeah.
You have an eye for design. You like film. You love anything that's in the realm of the arts.
Yeah. And I think
I
beauty,
get it.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
It's also everything of quality
people.
too.
Yeah.
So I find myself, I own 12. I counted. I have 16 watches now,
Okay.
which is crazy for me. And I have a hard time in the morning. I'm like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
So I'm curious, how do you even approach this?
So recently, I think before this one, it was like the feeling had to beat the Speedmaster when I got to the watch box. You know what I mean? 'Cause it's
They
like,
had to beat the Speedmaster.
yeah, because it's like
Wow.
when I got my
Okay.
Speedmaster,
Because so that's what you go for
it
mainly.
became my daily driver like very quickly.
Okay.
And it is really hard to take off.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Speedy, I have one. I have a vintage Speedy. It does
Yeah.
that to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's like, oh, I'm kind of doing this today. Like, this is the vibe. This is the temperature. You know what I mean? Like, any excuse. And sometimes I just get bored. I want to switch it up. I just switch straps a lot also.
Yeah.
Like, exponential amount of straps compared to the amount of watches I But I don't know. It's the same thing. It's like it's just a feeling, or it's a story, or it's like I know I'm going into like X pitch today, and like this watch gives me the energy I need.
That I
Bring
understand.
that. You know what I mean?
I resonate with that.
Yeah.
So I'm curious too. Do you ever feel like, because there's sometimes what I get is there is what you describe when you're purchasing the watch, that calling.
Yeah.
And there are times where I feel that same calling when I see it in the watch box,
Yeah.
even though I've already purchased it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I have to wear you today.
Yeah.
Does that ever happen to you?
Oh, all the time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that it's, again, like just being open to that experience. And it's like, yo, what adventure are we going to go on today? You know what I mean? It's like, you must be telling me to wear you for a reason.
Yeah.
And like, let's see what's up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's kind of how I felt with this one today.
Yeah.
I got up this morning.
And then look what happened. Like you.
I know it's
And
crazy.
then 4 Omega showed up on
Four
set.
Omega.
Yeah, I know it's
It was-
wild.
Yeah. That's
But
kind of how I
I've been
feel
wearing
too.
this watch all day today.
Yeah.
So I had this morning I got together with Tiffany Wade.
Okay.
We shot some pictures, and I was wearing this watch. We were shooting pictures of other watches, but I was like, for some reason, I was like, I'm wearing this one today.
Yeah.
And I had an outfit change before I got
Right.
here.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying I had the shoot, I had this, and but I'm still wearing the same watch.
Yeah.
And,
Well, that
yeah.
brings you to a question though. Do you ever switch watches midday just because you're like,
No.
Okay.
I
don't.
definitely have.
Yeah.
He
I do
has.
too.
I am committed.
Okay.
So when we did Rashawn's episode, I was talking about how I always decide what watch I'm wearing just like off of feeling and instinct.
Yeah.
I'll like get up from bed. I have all my watches like on a counter in my room, and I'm like, for whatever reason, I just grab it.
Right.
There's been times when I'll go home midday and I gotta go out again, and I'm like, I don't feel like wearing this no more. That's the one I want to wear now, because I just look at it and I'm like, this describes me right now in this
Exactly.
moment.
Yeah. You change the vibe a little bit.
Yeah,
Very rarely happens to me.
it's happened to me like this year since 2022 started maybe 3 times.
So I have this thing where I feel obligated once I've made the choice.
Oh.
It's almost like it's a living thing, and I'm like,
Well, it is.
I'm taking
it is.
it.
It literally has a heartbeat, dog.
It's okay.
okay, I'm not
I
gonna
won't
put you in the box.
abandon
I'm gonna go. You know,
Today's your day.
yeah. That's good.
I will say though, for me, I'll go out with 2 watches. So like
Okay.
I'll have one on, and I'll have one like knowing it. Like let's say knowing that I was about to do this
Right.
today. Like there was the work watch. I woke up like, oh yeah, I worked out, but like I'm not working that for.
The last like 3 times I've seen this man, he's had multiple watches on.
Facts.
It's on him.
Yep.
Fact. As a matter of fact, when we ran into you at the Complecto event, the first one,
4
you were
watches.
4 watches.
Yeah. You know what? It's almost
He
like
double wristed.
it builds up on itself, because if I only had 3 watches, eventually I think you lose that spark feeling of what multiple watches would provide, because you have 3, you know what, there's only so many times you'll get that spark from those 3 watches.
Yeah.
But it's best way to describe it, it's like when you haven't seen a family member for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's amazing to see them, but if they were living with you every day, you'd be
Yeah.
like, oh
You don't
my
want
God.
that feeling. Yeah.
You wouldn't
Get
want
out of
that.
here.
But it's I understand that completely. When I was like looking for what I was gonna bring today, there's some stuff that's like going back to Casio. Like I had an old Casio World Timer, and I was like, oh man, I haven't worn this watch in like 2 years. Like,
Wow.
maybe I should put this on. You know what I mean? But it's like I also just like having that variety of stuff that it's like it's not all luxury, it's not all vintage, it's not all tool watches, it's not all mechanical. You know what I mean? It's
I totally get it.
You can just but it's me. You know what I mean? Like if you can look at that and be like, oh yeah, no, that's Jamal's collection. You know?
It's funny because I wear, I like to grill.
Yeah.
Often
Yes,
when I-
very well too.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I'll give you. Yeah, you
Give me
need your
more
props on
compliments.
that.
Okay, you can't say that and not like you gotta put send the invitation.
Oh, it's coming.
I actually didn't.
We got all summer.
Yeah,
You'll be at
it'll
the
be
next
fine.
one. So for those who are watching or listening, either or, just to let you know, when it comes to grilling, I get down. I get busy.
So
The
I'm letting you know
chicletas
right
get
now.
thrown on. It's
The
you know.
family-
Listen, when the leather sandals comes out, you know it's real.
Perry was out here grilling, and leather flip flops and socks.
Yes, I was.
I like that
Like
energy.
a grilling
I mean,
photo shoot.
I'm a
Well, I didn't get a
it.
pedicure. That's why I had the socks. Normally I would go straight barefoot, but I had guests over. You know, I'm trying to keep everything. You know,
The salmon. What kind of steaks you got again? Ribeye steaks.
we did some ribeye.
We did some salmon, some ribeye, and the
we
chicken
smoked
wings.
some salmon. We smoked some wings.
Wow.
What kind of grill you did?
Legendary.
I use just charcoal grill. I
Okay.
have a Weber.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Not a gas man.
No, I don't. That's not grilling. That's
Or
using
like,
a
just
stove.
like crazy Japanese.
That's how you know.
Did you see his
That's how
face?
you know.
He got angry.
Anybody that comes to me and talks about using gas, you're using you're cooking.
Right, you're cooking.
It's not grilling. There's a
Right?
difference.
Yeah.
And you might be a great cook, but it's not grilling. I'll leave it
I
there.
pay.
But whenever I do, I like to wear. There are two watches I wear. I'll either wear my G-Shock.
Okay.
I have the green G-Shock.
Yeah, you
which I
had the
wore
G-Shock
last
on, and when you
time. Or one of my new favorites to wear is the watch that Frank got us.
really,
I wear that
Sam the
when I'm
American
grilling.
Eagle.
Sam the American Eagle.
Shout out to Frank Williams.
That's my grilling watch.
I gotta say, I was really jealous when I saw you guys got those.
Yo,
That
they
watch
were
is fire.
fire.
So like,
So I got red, you got
I have the
white.
white strap.
Rashawn has blue.
Yes, and Ashraf has black.
Right.
word. I'm like a big LA Olympics fan.
Yeah.
Like I have a ton of memorabilia from the '84 Olympics,
Mhm.
and it's just like another weird obsession.
Yeah, you gotta get, you gotta get a
But I was
Sam the
like,
Eagle watch.
I didn't know those existed. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
there's
I
still-
want
there's-
it. No,
so
but-
actually, it is. There are some out there, but it is still very rare. I've
Yeah.
only
Yeah.
seen like maybe one or two up for sale still. That's it.
Well,
And but they're dead stock, like
Right.
manual wound watches.
it's crazy.
It's keeping impeccable time.
Yeah.
And it's loud.
Yeah,
Tick tock, tick. Like you hear it.
Right.
It's crazy. It's so good. I love that watch. That watch is awesome. So Frank, thank you.
shout out to Frank.
Shout out to Frank. We appreciate you. And it is getting a lot of wrist time, especially this summer. That's
Yeah.
my go-to.
That's a
grilling
good summer watch.
If you and that's the only time I ever actually wear it. So if you see the watch on my wrist, it's going down.
right.
So hold on, let me ask you a question. Did you
Shoot.
wear this on the 4th of July? I didn't see you.
I
4th of
did.
July.
I did. You weren't there. I did wear it on the 4th of July.
There you go.
Osh was there. I wore it.
Photographic evidence.
Absolutely. Oh, I got it. I'll post it.
We
I'll
gonna post
tomorrow.
it.
I'll post it. But no, that's that's the one. When I throw that on, I'm like, you know what time
You
it
about
is.
to chef some shit up.
We have to chef it up. Going back to our guest.
Yeah.
So in talking about, deciding what watches to wear, I am curious because this watch that you're wearing on your wrist is very unique. Let's start with why did you decide to wear that one today?
I mean, this has kind of been my summer watch. It's kind of
Okay.
to summer watch. Excuse me. But it just kind of fit the vibe a
Sure.
little bit. You know what I mean? It's and I don't know. Like it's hard to explain. I was just like,
So I don't
this
know
is
a whole
today.
lot about this piece. This
Yeah.
is the first time I've
Yeah.
ever seen one. What's the story behind this? Let's describe what this is first too for our listeners.
Yeah, it's an Omega Seamaster. I think it's again like 68, 69.
It's in great condition for
Look it
the
up.
year.
6'9".
Check my facts. But they did a whole range of these with the electric complication. Or the electric movement, excuse me.
So it's a battery operated movement,
Battery operated movement.
but it ticks like an automatic watch.
yeah, it actually sweeps. It almost looks
Yeah,
like a
so
spring
it
drive.
looks like
You know
you
what I
took the
mean?
words out of my
Yeah.
mouth. It looks like
Yeah.
a Grand Seiko spring drive.
And it's the same movement that's in the Accutrons. So
Wow.
it's got the tuning fork. It's got a hum.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Accutron. It's always accurate.
Yeah, there you go.
Shout out to Belova.
But it's super light. Like it has a nice kind of jangle to it. Like it's just loose enough that it like makes that kind of like, like very tactile feel. But I don't know. I fell in love with it.
Have you had to
Like,
change
so
the battery since you had it?
No.
No. How long have you had it?
I've had it probably about 6 months, 7 months.
So does this one actually qualify as a quartz watch?
No.
No, it
This
doesn't.
is
on
different.
Yeah, it doesn't run.
It's a
Yeah.
tuning fork movement.
Yeah. What I like about this too is that instead of obviously it's an electronic movement, so it doesn't say like 28,000 beats per
Right.
second. It says 300 hertz,
So I know,
and the omega symbol on the
we
dial is
usually
red.
we tap
Yeah.
Ben as our watch encyclopedia.
Yeah.
I know he doesn't like
It's
that
never
term,
gonna stick.
but you are very knowledgeable. And so
And just,
I
like,
want
quick
to
with it,
ask
too.
you,
It's
because
great.
I'm sure you know,
Yeah.
how do we differentiate quartz from the electronic movement?
So quartz, I mean, it's in the name. Quartz would have a quartz
It has the
crystal in it.
Yes.
This doesn't have that.
Okay.
It has a tuning fork. For example, a Grand Seiko Spring Drive does actually have a quartz crystal in it, but it's not considered quartz because it runs with an electromagnet and a rotor. They're still automatic. So you can't call that a quartz because there's no battery in it.
Interesting.
Just for perspective, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, the normal 28800 is 4 hertz.
Yeah.
So the tuning fork in this is moving at 300 hertz.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Wow. That's why it's sweeping like
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
Jesus Christ.
Grand Seiko doesn't even tell you how many hertz theirs runs at.
This is
They don't want
amazing.
anybody to know.
Yeah. No, I really love
And the crazy thing about this, see, this is why I love Omega, because over their history, they've done some real oddball shit.
Mhm.
Right? And it's like, yo, this is what we're going to do. We're going to make an electric dive watch.
Yeah. Going
Electricity and water? What? I don't know about that.
Screw down crown on there.
Crazy.
Actually, I do have to correct both of us, Ricardo. 3 hertz is 26,000 or 28,000.
Oh, okay.
4 hertz is 36.
4 hertz. Are
So this it's got a bi-directional bezel.
Yeah. The bezel's a little sticky.
It's a little tough.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
but it
okay.
does
It's a
move.
watch. Yeah, it's a watch from
The
69.
bracelet is awesome.
Yeah.
It does resemble an oyster bracelet.
It's got a little bit
It's
of
just
that.
got a little bit more of a taper to it. I love that the Omega logo sits on like that red,
Yeah.
little plate at the top. This thing is really fire, actually.
Yeah. Even the like weighted hands, like the kind of baton hands, it's like
Yeah, those
you
are
know what I
kinda
mean?
cool.
It's like
Well, they have to do that shape because it's been proven that baton shaped hands, they don't wiggle when they move.
oh word.
So, for example, Rolex, you look at any Rolex, they have really thin hands.
Yeah.
On top of that, the hands are actually gold.
Right.
So they're thin and they're soft.
Yeah.
So if you get your Rolex service, doesn't matter how new or old it
They
is,
always replace the hands.
they're going to replace the hands because there's micro abrasions and small bends in it that you
Yeah.
can't see with the naked eye. And that's because they're really soft and light, so they'll always bend. So in the case of this Omega, if it gets serviced, you'll probably never have to swap the hands.
Right.
Same thing with Grand Seiko. Grand Seiko is one of the only brands that uses brass hands.
Okay.
They use brass because brass is way heavier than gold. There's no wiggle or shake when they move.
Right.
So how did this come into your life? What's the story with this one?
This was just a random trip to the Rose Bowl flea market in LA.
Wow.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yo, my wife was there 2 days ago. I had her on FaceTime. I'm like, show me some. I'm looking for some shirts. I need some vintage T-shirts. But the service out there is terrible. I
It's
couldn't
horrible. It's
see
really-
anything.
yeah.
So yeah, Rose Bowl flea market.
Yeah,
Okay.
I wasn't looking to buy a watch. I mean, I'm always looking to buy a watch, but I wasn't. You know what I mean?
You
That
didn't
wasn't the
expect to
purpose
buy
of the
one so
trip.
soon,
It
yeah.
was, yeah.
And then,
And it was another moment where I just like, nah, it's a perfect watch.
It called you.
Right there's a perfect watch.
It called you.
Yeah.
What was the transaction like? What was the person like who sold this to you?
It for what can go down at that place, it was actually pretty straightforward. You know what I mean?
Stick me for my paper.
Exactly.
Did you bargain it though?
I bargained a little bit.
Okay.
It did not cost what I think it should. Like, I definitely got away with something.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
You should.
You got-
at
you
the
got
Rose
more.
Bowl, you should.
Oh yeah, I came out like I
Good.
won the transaction.
Yeah.
But it again, it's just like there's something about the beauty of these things and like the way that they're kind of weighted and the feeling and all of that, and to me that it ticks all those boxes for me.
This is a really cool watch.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it's really really cool.
See,
I
now,
like this.
That makes me want to add an Acatron back to my collection. Like
I
this-
got
You had
two.
one?
Like
when I first started collecting, I had the newer version of the Devil Diver that
Right.
you have.
okay.
Because they kind of the lobster, they
Right.
kind of
Yeah.
they reintroduced those, and I picked it up. And there's just something about the sweet on
Yeah.
an Acatron that, like,
It's nice.
yeah, like I always ask myself, like, why do most brands, instead of making just a normal quartz piece, why aren't all their pieces like this?
Exactly.
Mm.
Because I know in their mind they're like, we want to differentiate between the automatic
Right.
and this, but This is just nice though. Like,
It's not. It's like I think it's a really lovely movement, and like one of my kind of side quests in collecting is like being a little bit of a movement guy.
As,
you know what I
as,
mean? And
as
it's
someone
like-
who plays video games every day, I like that you use the term
Yeah.
side quest.
But it's like I want to have important movements, like you know what I mean, like my speedy. I've got now I don't know, I'm blanking on everything. The Accutron, the 9F quartz movement, like Grand Seiko's 9F quartz.
Yeah.
Like
You have a GMT, right? With
Yeah,
that movement in
GMT,
it?
yeah.
So you're intentionally building a collection
Yeah.
in terms of like, I want to get one of
Yeah.
these, one of that.
yeah,
one
and I
of
think
this.
it's just like important moments in technological design and advancement.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's something that a brand that I respect. I don't know if I could pull off one of the watches, but the Bulova. I'm completely brain farting on this.
Computrack.
Octofinissimo's. Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The Bulgari.
Yes.
Bulgari. Oh,
Bulgari.
oh.
They like kind of chasing innovation in the way that they're doing, where it's
Yeah.
like, how thin can we make this thing? It's like, yo, I love that energy. You
It
know
would
what
be
I mean?
interesting to see where they go next after what RM
After
just did.
RM, yeah, RM just
Yeah.
flexed.
Like, can you get any thinner?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
But also, it's like maybe like, can you stay that thin, but just design a better?
A better looking watch.
because it's not like, I mean,
We had this conversation the other
I don't know how
day.
many people was chasing that. Like,
Yeah,
We had this conversation the
one's
other
gonna
day
be-
with.
no disrespect to RM, but
I don't know,
We had this conversation with Tyler the other day. Perry actually wasn't there for this conversation. It's when we were at Dumbo House
okay,
with the guys from Wax
copy.
and Get Bezel, and me and Tyler were talking, and we were like, we love and this is before the RM came out.
Yeah.
We were like, we love the fact that the Octo Finissimo is like the thinnest watch, and the watch is fire. I'll never buy one. I don't want a fucking QR code on my dial.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not doing that. And then RM drops the new one, the Ferrari collab, and I was like, I wear a Ferrari logo on my wrist though.
Oh god,
I was like, yeah, I rock with Ferrari. I wear that.
sure, of course,
Yeah.
sure.
I wish the watch wasn't so wide though. That's the only
Right.
thing I got.
Yeah,
I
to
mean,
say.
it just looks
It's
like
wide.
it looks like something out of like Xena Warrior
Yeah,
Princess.
it looks like
Like the first thing I thought of was like, you know, the bracelets you get when you go to a music festival.
Yes.
Like your ticketless entry thing.
yeah.
Like,
You tap them.
yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, it's weird. I don't know.
It feels like the chase for innovation is kind of pushing the whole. You know, what's that quote? Form follows function. And
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pushing it so much in that direction that you almost want to snap them back and be like,
Yes.
Make it look good first.
Yeah.
yeah.
Please,
And then incorporate the idea of it being really thin. I don't mind an extra 0.05 millimeters if it means it's a watch that's more
That's
wearable.
They were just trying to flex in quote unquote innovation in terms
Yeah.
of how can we make the thinnest watch. Whatever it
Sure.
takes,
Right.
let's just do it.
Yeah.
But I do like that chase, and I like that it pushes us to this thing where, you know, it's like timekeeping was all about trying to figure out the perfect way to do this, but we all have iPhones now, so
Yeah,
you know what I
exactly.
mean.
Yeah.
And it's like, how else can we push this innovation? What else can we do? It's like I like the energy, but again, the results always not always.
Yeah.
So speaking of what we're just talking about in terms of collecting and
Yeah.
how you're going about it intentionally, what's next for you? What's on the hit list? What's
There's so many
what are you
things.
looking-
You gotta give us a top three.
You know, let's give us like give us like top three, considering like either brand
Yeah.
or some other category.
I really want a Howard Carrera 2447. Like,
Okay.
vintage. Again, like I think going back to the important movement thing, it's just like a chronograph that A is beautifully designed and B is just like a little piece of watch history. You know what I mean? I got my eye on an Explorer 2.
What dial color?
Polar.
White.
Polar.
Yeah.
I'm like
Vintage or modern?
I want a modern one.
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah, you want that's gonna be the beater.
Yeah. And I think for me, I want my first Rolex to be my first, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I want to put my story on it.
I feel you.
I want those to be my scratches, you know
I
what I
feel
mean?
you.
The second one, we'll figure that out. But
Sure.
I think, you know, hopefully that's close. So we'll see.
I always say this, and you know, I think the Polar Dial Explorer 2
Yeah.
is one of the best looking tool watches.
Oh, I think it's great.
It's just
It's
aesthetically,
underrated.
it checks every single box. It just doesn't.
And it's also just a little weird. You know what I mean?
For the brand, it is
Yeah.
incredibly weird. It makes no sense for Rolex.
Yeah.
It's like a watch for Spelunkers. Like,
Right.
what?
Yeah. The spelunking community.
It's like, it makes no sense, but it's an awesome piece.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. And it's just like begging to put a story on it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, because with that watch too, you don't feel bad about like
Yeah.
dinging it up.
no.
You're incentivized to.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
It's a tool watch's tool watch.
it really
Yeah.
is.
I think that's Rolex's least luxury looking watch.
Right.
But almost like its most purest expression
Exactly.
of what it
Of,
used to
of
be.
what they used to be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
100%.
That I like the Explorer 1 in the same essence too.
Yeah. I tried on the Explorer one because I always thought the 36 was going to be too small, just like by hearing about it. And I put it on and I'm like, no, this might be like a perfectly sized watch.
It's bigger than your Jurassic Park watch.
Again, yes. Yeah.
I think if you go Explorer, though, you go 1016.
If you're gonna go vintage, you have to go
Yeah.
1016.
I would only go vintage on the Explorer one.
Nah, I rock with the new 36. It's good.
The new 36 is nice.
It's fucking good.
nice.
The bracelet's fire.
I'm gonna go 1016.
Hey, if you find one at the right price, let me know because they're 20 and over right now. It's
I mean, I'm
crazy.
gonna go Ranger because I'm not gonna get it at the right price, but
It's fine.
we'll figure that out. What else you got in your head?
I want to add Spring Drive to
Me
the
too.
collection.
Yes.
I haven't found the right one yet. I'm not a huge fan of the Power Reserve dial on the front. Is that
So
like
that
it.
was gonna be
I
my
like
next
it.
question.
I love the Power Reserve
Yeah,
dial.
me and Perry are see eye to eye on this. We
Yeah.
love Power Reserve indicators, but would you do a manually wound spring drive? Because they usually
Yeah.
put those Power Reserves on the
on
back.
the back? Yeah, I would 100%.
Okay.
So I remember you said you have a GS right
Mhm.
now. After going to that store and then kind of just and then getting the Pelagos, what made you get that GS?
Because I don't think I had quite let it go, because that was the next purchase with
Yeah.
that Grand
Yeah.
Seiko. And it was also like I got the Pelagos in March 2021. It was right when we got Pause, and I bought the watch to like kind of celebrate getting my first TV show. You know
Nice.
what I mean? And like the GS was when kind of the world opened back up a little bit, and we were doing a little more travel jobs. And I was like, you know what I need for travel is a GMT.
Makes sense.
That was the excuse. But again, another thing, I just saw it, and it's like the way that the red hand against that like blue sunburst dial is
Yes.
just like very nicely balanced. It's also like I thought a little small for me at first, but I'm just like, because it's 39 millimeters, I put it on and I was like, no, it's perfect.
Yeah.
It's great.
Steel bezel, everything, man.
Yeah.
Steel bezel, everything. Yeah.
LA being your true home, do you always have GNT time set to LA?
No, I have my GMT time set to where my wife is.
Okay.
So
Very important.
yeah, and it's just like, I mean, when we were shooting our movie, The Day Ones, in LA, she was working on a movie or TV show in North Carolina.
Oh, she's in the same industry.
Yeah, she's a costume designer. So,
Oh,
or
wow,
works in
that's awesome.
costumes, I would say.
Okay.
Oh,
tight.
so like, are you like these watches? Yeah, that. should be
It's
what
we
you-
try to keep a little church and state in the home.
Smart
You
man,
know what I
smart
mean?
man.
You know
How
what I
does she feel about your hobby in general? Is she into it? Is she,
She's into it. She's very supportive. You know what I mean?
That's
and I
a
think
gift.
Yeah. I think that sometimes I got to be a little creative about like when they come into the home. You know what I mean?
As we all.
When they're introduced, but I think she likes it.
is she getting into watches
a
herself?
little bit. So
cool. Yeah, nice.
yeah. So for her birthday this year, she wanted a Zodiac watch. She's super into like true crime and things.
Oh, she
Oh,
won. Yeah, that makes
dope.
sense.
So
Nice.
she-
Which one did she get?
She got the triple date moon phase.
Nice.
From like
Oh, that's a
53
good
or
one.
54.
Yeah, I know that one. I was
Yeah.
looking at one of those.
Yeah.
Black
Um,
dial?
It's the cream dial.
The cream dial. Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's great. And then it's dope because she like was going through my straps and found like a rainbow NATO and
So
put
she's
it
into
on.
vintage. Because with
Yeah,
that
yeah,
triple day
yeah.
move phase, what's that, like late 50s or
It's,
60s?
No, it's like mid 50s.
Mid-50s?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. But she put it on a NATO, and I was like, you can't put that watch on a NATO, but
Yeah.
she did it, and it looks great. You know what I mean? She rocks it. She
Sure.
loves it. When I first started getting into luxury watches, she's like, you know what I want? Have you ever seen those Rolexes that are all gold and they have like the date at the top?
Yeah.
And like the day? I want
There
one
we
of
go.
those. And I was
She's
like,
like,
yeah, I
yeah.
want one of those too. Like, what are you doing? But it's like, she's supportive. Like, she's got me very early in our relationship. I know this is a controversial watch brand, but she bought me a Daniel Wellington. She knew that I liked watches, and that was like kind of what she...
I actually bought my
You know what I
wife
mean?
one of those a long time ago. Doesn't wear it anymore.
But yeah, mine doesn't work. Mine doesn't work either. Like, I'm just like, okay, it didn't last. But I still keep it in my box when I'm traveling. I keep it in my DAP kit because it's like talking about connection to things and having a story to things. Like, it reminds me of a very early time in our relationship when we weren't where we are now. You know what I mean? And she believed in me, and we were like trying to make it happen. You know what I mean? And I think from that, she just knows that it's a thing that's never gone away. Like, my love for watches is always going to be here. So
Yeah.
That's dope.
You know,
That's dope.
yeah.
So, what's your Grail watch? What's the one that, like, you know, out of all of them, it's like, this is the one, like...
It's hard. So there's the Patek Color Travel Time.
Okay.
Is like one that, for me, it's like I don't really have a lot of Pilots watches in my collection, but it's just like there's something about that watch that is just,
The modern one's modern.
Yeah.
Rose or white?
The white.
5524G.
Yeah.
That's the one you want.
Yeah. Okay.
Taking notes.
Yeah. There's also the what is the new watch they just released? Parmigiani did the GMT with the gold hand.
Yeah, they did. I saw
you know
that.
what I mean? It's
Yeah,
like, again,
yeah, yeah.
like
The Rattrapant.
yeah, the Rattrapant. And it's
Beautiful
it's
watch.
such a gorgeously designed watch, and it's just like the idea of like form and function is like what you were talking about before. It's like, oh no, that's what form and function is. It's like the way that the hands work, the like balance of the whole thing. It's a beautiful art object that happens to tell time.
I have to say, there were maybe a handful of watches at Watches and Wonders that me and the guys kind of just like stopped.
Yeah.
Like, that was one of them.
Yeah.
Like, just the way that they put that the incorporated into the one hand and it's hiding behind there. Like, it's such a cool, and the whole fit of the watch, it's comfortable. Yeah, that's I'm you're good. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Great choice.
And there's always stuff, you know what I mean? It's like I'm always kind of chasing something. I saw this platinum Nautilus, and I'm not really a Nautilus guy, but I saw platinum Nautilus, and
5711P. Yeah, there you go.
He's a
I was
Patek
like,
guy. You can't talk.
okay.
Yeah, I mean, you guys know Patek's my favorite brand.
But yeah, I'm always going to chase something. I think that's part of it. It's like, I like that feeling.
It's like
I like the search.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It always leads you to something else too.
It does too. Yeah, you end up. I don't know. It's like the experience of purchasing a watch. It can be either really cheap in terms of the experience, or it can be very enriching.
Yeah.
And the chase, I think, makes it very enriching because there's the experience, but there's also the research that you put into it, and then what you learn. And then when you finally get it, it really does feel like a trophy.
Yeah.
It's nice.
Yeah. It's a story. It's a part of your life and a part of your journey. You know what I mean? And who knows how long it will be with you, but for that moment it is, and I think that's really beautiful.
Very
You know what
special.
I mean? So
What projects you got coming up? I know you're constantly on the go. And
we
hopefully
just
Pause season 3.
fingers crossed.
It's happening.
You know what I mean? So the season finale of Pause was just on, and we're again hopeful for season 3. We're doing right now a big campaign with ESPN, Derek Jeter, and American Family Insurance for the Captain documentary that's coming out.
Wow.
So it is incredibly fun thing where we basically were taking Derek Jeter and then like putting him inside of his memories. So it's like him interacting with a younger version of himself, him interacting with himself in high school, him interacting with himself when he won the World Series.
That's dope.
And so he kind of gets to walk through these memories and say thank you to all of these people. And it's just a lot of fun. It's like got to be imaginative, like, you know, it'd be a big 3-spot national campaign. So that's coming up.
Incredible. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Well deserved.
And then, just a couple other things on the horizon. There's a watch project I can't say too much about yet.
Uh-oh.
I think people
Uh-oh.
are going to be pretty excited about.
Good.
So, yeah.
Can't wait to see that.
Yeah. You know, finally bringing the two together. A little bit,
There we
so.
go. That's the goal, right? That's the goal. Bring the
Yeah.
hobby and the profession together.
Yeah.
Respect. Well, this has been awesome. Really enjoyed this. Thank you for coming down.
Thank you for having me, guys.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Absolute pleasure.
Yeah.
Thoroughly enjoyed this. You were the first director we've had on the show.
Oh.
Sure.
It's we're not usually used to being in front of the camera. So, you know,
No,
it's a little
I know
easier
that,
than
and I
thought it was gonna
appreciate it. You know, I think just from knowing your story and what where you've come from, where you've gone to, obviously you have a lot to be proud of,
Thanks, man. I
and it
appreciate
shows
that.
in the work. The Pause with Sam J is a show that me and my wife do enjoy. She put me on to Sam J actually.
Yeah.
Wishing you all the best.
Thank
and
you.
Much
Thank you,
success
thank
with
you.
that.
Back to you guys.
Shout out to my man Ricardo.
Shout out to
sitting right here,
Ricardo.
joining us as our guest co-host this week.
It's always fun, man. Like I said, just love being here. Man.
Respect. We love having you. Rashawn, if you're listening, just want you to know that this episode was very, very special.
Very special. Very special.
And we miss you. But we'll see you in a couple of weeks. And for those out there in YouTube and Spotify land and audio land, you know where to find us. On Instagram, you can find us at RiskCheckPod. Spotify, just search RiskCheck Podcast. YouTube, RiskCheck Podcast. We're on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, TikTok for the children. And see you next week. This was episode 30.
Sheesh.
I was just...
What are we titling this show? Because that's something you guys do. You can't just
Yeah, we should figure out during the episode.
you
Fuck.
can't. I know I put y'all on
He
the
just threw us a
spot.
curveball.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for them to. What are we gonna call this one?
What do you think we should call it? Why don't
Dirty
you-
30. That's it.
I like Dirty 30. I like that.
30.
Shout out to Dirty 30.
Go with that.
Dirty
There we go.
30.
There you
There
go.
it is. There you have it.
Peace, y'all.
See you
Peace.
next week.